Hello and welcome to another episode of the Defining the Dash podcast. My name is Mark Mullins, your host, joined today by my good friend of at least 56 weeks on the podcast, or 57 weeks, Brother Chad Clifton. Brother Chad, good to have you.
Good to be here, Brother Mark.
Good to have you.
Thank you for having me back.
Hey, I'm glad you came back, man. Thank you for having me back. you're the brains behind it. You're the one that signs my paycheck. So thank you for having me back.
With a paycheck with that many zeros, man, it takes more than one signature. Don't spend it all at one place.
Not at one place.
Yeah.
All right. So, Brother Chad, last week, man, that episode was awesome.
Yeah.
We was talking about help
Yes,
and how it is totally normal and kind of weird if you don't ask for help when you need help. And today we're going to go a little deeper into some particular aspects of help. And so, what's on your mind today regarding help, Brother Chad?
Well,
I need help with what you have on your mind about help.
Yes, you need help knowing what I was talking about needing help with.
Yes.
And so...
and your insurance card.
And...
Just get out the insurance card. I just get in the habit of that. Sorry.
Yeah. And so... a lot of the situations that we come into in life naturally, especially you making the joke with the insurance card, are financial.
Sure.
Financial situations. And so, when you've got a set amount of money coming in, but you have a whole lot of money going out and things, it seems like the cost of things is going up a lot quicker than the income is.
Oh, yeah.
And so we find ourselves a lot of times, in the negative or in the red or overdrawn or, just not having the money to do the things that we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so in those situations, and we talked a lot on last week's episode, Brother Mark, as men and as we were trained growing up as boys to be the breadwinner of the house. Mm-hmm. And so, in those situations, it causes us, if we're not able to meet those demands,
mm-hmm.
If we're not able to meet our financial demands, then, we feel like failures.
Sure.
And so, well, what does that mean? What does that lead to? Well, I mean, that can lead to depression.
Sure it can.
That can lead to marital problems, alcoholism, drug use, all those
abuse.
Things. Abuse. It becomes into anger issues.
Right.
It can turn into backsliding. It can turn into all these things, and none of that has to happen.
Right. Right.
If we just realize first of all, hey, I can't do this on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working 2 jobs already.
Right.
I'm trying my best to meet this, and the money's still not coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I need to ask for some help.
Yep.
And that's whether it's government help.
Mm-hmm.
There's government programs out there to help if you're low income.
Right.
And a lot of people are ashamed to even partake into that. Whether it's borrowing a little bit of money off of a friend or family member that you're hoping pay back at income tax time.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to your pastor and saying, Pastor, my family's in financial needs this month. I don't know if we're going to have enough money to feed the kids.
Right.
My power bill's about to be, my power's about to be shut off.
Right.
Or whatever the need is. Is there a way that the church can help in some small way?
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed to even ask. But I don't know what else to do, and I don't want my children in the cold.
Right.
There's all these things that we could do.
Mm-hmm.
But first we got to admit that, hey, yeah, there's an issue here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing my best, but I just can't carry it all on my own.
Right.
And that don't make you less of a man. That makes you more of a man.
Right.
For admitting to the situation that you're in and knowing how to go get help.
Right.
And we say man, but if you're the female of the household or a lady that's living out on her own, maybe in her own apartment or whatever, and you're coming upon these two, I mean, the same rule applies to you.
Sure.
But don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not saying you can't make it on your own.
Right.
It's not saying in any way that you're a failure, because there's things outside our control that happen.
Yeah, it's almost, Brother Chad, like admitting help in those situations. Another way to look at it is allowing someone who wants to help the opportunity to help.
Yeah. You could be denying someone else their blessing.
Right.
Because, usually, probably more times than not, I'm probably the one in the financial strain that's needing or getting the help rather than being able to help other people. But when you're able to help someone else,
right,
man, what a blessing that is.
It is, yeah.
And that's when you truly realize what that means when it says it's better to give than to receive.
Yeah.
Because it is such a good feeling. If I'm able to give somebody $50, and that's the difference in them being able to eat,
changes their life. Yeah.
Then that feels way better.
Yeah.
Than me receiving $50 if I didn't need it.
Right. Well, even keeping it in the bank, man, you're losing buying power anyway.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
So you might as well give it away.
Yeah, you might as well.
Speaking of help,
yes.
I'm getting ready to plant my garden between now and homecoming.
Oh,
and so I was wondering if you got anything going on. I'll put you on the spot.
Okay, listeners.
We'll see you next week.
Time to help Brother Mark. Well, our time for today has come and gone.
Well, that was fast.
That 30 minutes seemed only like 6 minutes and 43 seconds, Brother Mark.
That's weird.
Sure, man. I'll be glad to help you in the garden.
Okay. Hey, y'all heard that, listeners.
Yeah, that's right.
But, you was talking about people, different types of help out there. Right now we're kind of dealing a little bit with the financial help.
Yes.
Man, I don't know how many people I've seen come into the office that had got to the place where it's almost an emergency type situation.
Yeah.
And needing some financial assistance. And, and I know that there's so many government programs they qualify for, and I usually, by far the majority of the time, I can't think of any time when I have not done this.
Yeah.
But I recommend people to call their local DSS and find out, because, man, there's so many great programs out there, and just to kind of give some of the listeners some ideals, and the reason why I'm going this way with it is you've got programs kind of like the WIC program for women, infants, and children up to 5 years old.
Yes.
You've got programs out there
fuel
for
assistance.
Fuel assistance type program. You've got Medicaid out there for insurance things. And those programs, and there's a bunch of other ones, but those programs have been placed there by the state to help people in need.
Yes.
And the reality of it is if those funds that are set aside by the state are not used up, they go away.
Yeah.
And so, if you can qualify for that stuff, it'd be great for you, but also would be great for your neighbor. The more we can qualify for that stuff and allow people to get on those kind of programs, and those kind of assistance when the time is there, the more that money's available going forward for the next guy.
Right.
And so there's no shame in it, man. I don't think there's any shame at all. That's why the programs are there.
Yeah. And if, like Brother Mark said, let's say, just to throw out a number, let's say for the state of Virginia, and it's probably more than this, I don't know. But let's say they allow $30 million for fuel assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But only $15 million, people enough for the amount of $15 million applied for it.
Right.
Then next time when the budget comes around and they're doing their approvals, $15 million is all they're going to get.
That's probably about all they get. They'll put they may put the other $15 million towards
another program.
So
yeah. But for fuel assistance, last year, and they may say, okay, $15 million was last year. We'll go ahead and do 17 or 20 million.
Right.
But I mean, you're still losing another $15 million.
Absolutely.
That could be available because nobody asked for help.
Right. Absolutely.
And so,
and it would change. It would change. It changes. And I don't know how many people, they'll come in the office and they're sick and they need a big workup. You got to look at somebody for instance has got blood pressure issues. Well, it's a blood pressure issue coming because my blood pressure issue where I'm fat, or is it because their thyroid's out of balance, or is it because their kidneys are out of balance, or is it because when their electrolytes are out of balance, or is it something like that? And so those that's everybody's neat little healthcare lecture for the day. But those kind of things you got to rule out. You got to figure out. You got to do lab tests, and so those lab tests, man, can cost hundreds of dollars.
Yes.
And if someone's already struggling financially, that's not what you want to do. But sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
But but that's where the Medicaid and that kind of stuff comes in, and somebody can get an appropriate treatment without breaking the bank. They would feel better, their health would be better, all because they thought, you know what, I'm just going to listen to what Brother Mark said. I'm just going to call and see if I can get some help.
Yeah.
And it changes their life.
Yeah.
It really changes their life. There's no need to struggle if you don't have to struggle.
Yeah. And I worked one time with a person that literally was having a heart attack on the job.
Mm-hmm.
And when the rescue squad came and was trying to take them to the hospital, they were refusing to go because they couldn't afford the rescue squad bill.
Yeah.
They was like, I don't, and I'm like, we're literally sitting here,
right,
in life or death situation,
right,
and what's keeping this person sitting here on the job
mm-hmm.
is they're afraid of the bill that's going to come in the mail,
right,
and the financial burden that it's going to cause,
mm-hmm.
which is probably part of what drove them to the heart attack to start with.
Could be, yeah, sure.
And rescue squad bills and stuff are high. Mm-hmm. They're extremely high.
Absolutely.
And in a lot of cases, your insurance may not cover all of it.
Right.
And but I'll tell you what the gentleman told her, and he said, "Listen," he said, "if you will go to the hospital today," he said, "we bill you for this. If you can't afford to pay it, don't send nothing." He said, "We'll bill you 3 times. If you ain't paid it, if you don't pay it in that 3 times," he said, "we write it off."
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said. I'm sure, I'm sure. I don't know that all ambulances would work that way,
right?
But that's what he told her.
Mm-hmm.
But and I'm not, recommending not paying your bills.
Oh, right.
Okay?
I got you. I'm with 100%. Yeah, I'm with 100%.
But that gave her enough of a relief
mm-hmm.
on that
mm-hmm.
that she went on to the hospital and got the help that she needed.
Right.
And so, but there's programs
mm-hmm.
like Brother Mark's talking about, even in the emergency rooms and stuff, there's programs to help if you don't have, they have grants given for people that don't have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And so that will help them pay for those bills. But, and a lot of times too, and our situations may not be from our own physical, or our own doing.
Sure.
Sure. I told you I was going to be a little bit transparent with you in this episode, and I'd been talking to Brother Mark a little bit about my own story. In 2014, I was disabled from the coal mines.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, I was 30 years old, I guess. I have to try to count back now.
Oh, easy. Easy.
Let's see. What was I, Brother Mark? Let's see.
20 years ago.
14. I'd be about 32 years old, somewhere in there.
Ago.
Yeah, 32 years old, I guess.
Man, you're old.
And so I am old, man.
Oh, sorry, that slipped out.
Speaking of needing help, I need you to help me get to my car. No, I'm kidding.
Deal.
But I was 31, 32 years old, and my doctor, he looked at me and he said, "I guess you're not going back to work." I said, "No, sir." I said, I need to go back to work. I've got a wife, and at that time, that was 2014. Yeah, I had all 4 kids then.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I need to work to provide for my family. I'm the breadwinner for our family.
Right.
He said, you can't go back,
mm-hmm.
And he said, when you leave my office today, you need to go get a lawyer and go ahead and sign up for disability. And I was like, man, what am I going to do? Because there's, a lot of times disability's backlogged for a year, 2 years, and that type of thing.
It's a process.
And it's a big, long process. When they sent me all that paperwork to fill out, man, I was like, this is a humongous book. Am I ever going to get through this to fill it all out,
Oh, yeah.
But, so for a while there, I sat and I felt like a failure to my family. We ended up, I was able to go on my short-term disability through the company I worked for, and they told me it would just roll over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
We went over 6 months with no pay whatsoever coming in.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
And so, of course, our church stepped in and helped at times. and things, but it was still
still don't make it easy.
It still didn't make it easy. I had a vehicle get repossessed during that time and everything, and I'm just being transparent, folks. And again, I do believe in paying your bills.
Sure.
I just wasn't able
Absolutely.
to.
Yep.
And it was pay the vehicle payment or pay the house.
Right.
And we needed a roof over my children's head, more than I needed that other car.
Yep. Prioritize.
And my pastor asked me at one point, he said, "How are y'all making it?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, it's just brand new miracles every day." I say, "I really can't tell you how I'm making it."
Right.
Because I never know where money's going to come from, because we have none.
You know where it's not coming from.
Yeah, I know where it's not coming from, and that's my pocket, because there's none there.
Yeah.
And so, we went 6 months, no pay. And like I said, somebody would call and be like, "Hey, why don't you meet me at Walmart?"
Mm-hmm.
And, even then, I dreaded going to meet them, because I had a suspicion of what it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I didn't really want to take money from nobody.
Right.
Because being a breadwinner was my job.
Right.
It's my job to provide, not another brother out of the church. It's not his job to provide for my family.
Yep.
And so I was in this, although it was a blessing, I felt like a failure.
Yep.
And there was times, and I would say to these people, "No, man, don't, you keep that for your family." And I didn't want to take it. And there was a couple of times, especially this one particular brother, he would say, "Don't rob me of my blessing."
Yep.
If I help my brother out when he's in need, God's going to bless me for that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't allow me to bless you, then you're stealing a blessing from me.
That's fair.
And I'm like, well, if you're putting it that way, then I'll take it. But just know, I didn't want to take it.
You're welcome. Walk away.
Yeah. I'm doing this for you.
That's right.
And so
I'll
take your money, but it's all because I'm helping you.
Exactly.
And so, but it was easy in that situation to become depressed.
Sure.
And there was a time there, Brother Mark, that I never really considered suicide or anything like that. But there's a lot of people that do.
A lot of people do.
There's a lot of people that do. But what I did feel like is I knew that I was carrying, while I was working in the mines, a $150,000, I believe, life insurance policy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I was killed in the mines, they would pay an additional $100,000 on top of that to my family.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever pray that you would just die in the mines?
No.
If you had to die?
No.
Okay. All right. I would have.
No. However, in this situation, I felt like my family would have been better off. I went through a spell where I felt like my family would have been better off had something happened to me in the mines. Mm-hmm. Because at least we wouldn't have been struggling. They would have had money. Mm-hmm. Now, is that logical? Is that thinking with a clear head? Is that the right line of thought? No. Mm-hmm. I have since voiced this to my wife, and they're like, "Are you crazy? Were you crazy?" Mm-hmm. But that's the mindset we get in when we begin to feel like a failure.
Right.
And I felt embarrassed to even tell anybody that my doctor had told me to sign up on disability, because here I was 30, 32 years old. Mm-hmm. And there were 60, 65-year-old men, 70-year-old men still working in the coal mines that have been in there for 50 years. Right. But this 30-year-old boy is being told, "Hey, you're disabled and can't go to work." Mm-hmm. I mean, and what are you going to do? Yep. And so it was embarrassing. I didn't even want to tell people that the doctors disabled me because it was embarrassing. I felt like I was at the stage where I felt ashamed. Right. There was times I had to walk on a cane. I needed help, with mobility, or even at times I had to ride in a wheelchair. You're aware of these situations, and it was embarrassing. Yeah. Because now I'm 42, but I will be 42, and 32 years old, and it was an embarrassment to me. Mm-hmm. And so it went against really, thinking about it and saying it out loud now, it went against their pride.
Sure.
Because we've always been able to take care of it before, but my ability to take care of it has been taken away.
Right.
We have been stripped of something that we held so important to us as our main responsibility. And that responsibility and how we handle that comes in different ranges. It's not just how we handle that and showing our family how we resolve the issue when things are going good, but it's also when it's going bad. And so there were times we had to have help.
Oh yeah.
Last week we talked about several government assistance programs. I was no stranger to those.
Sure.
I had to get some help.
Yeah, that's what they're there for, man.
And that's what they're there for.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had to get help with hospital bills. I had to, there was times family members would slip money in my pocket. There would be church members would just walk by, and there was people that I had never met before. My dad would be preaching somewhere, and he would give in prayer requests for us. And there would be people go out and buy groceries and bring to my dad and say, "Take these to your son."
Man, that's awesome.
There was a lady one time I had never talked to before, happened to be visiting our church, but she was where my dad had been preaching at. And she came over and just hugged me and my wife and slipped us $50.
Man.
And she don't know what a difference that made in their life that week.
Right.
And so I kind of alluded to it a little bit last week, but there was a time I can remember that I was telling somebody about today. We had 4 kids and majority of them still in diapers during that time. And we had pulled into my grandma's house, pulled into her driveway, not her house. Then she would have been in financial problems. But we pulled into the driveway and we had the diapers in the back of the car, and we went around to get a diaper out to change the baby, and it was the last diaper.
Wow, man.
We had no money in the bank to pay for any more diapers. And my wife looked at me and she's like, "What are we going to do?" And I'm like, "Baby, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know how we're going to get it. There's nothing." And about that time, coming down the road behind me was my mom walking. She had been up to the mailboxes, and she'd seen us down at my grandma's, and she'd come walking down there, and she said, "Hey, here's an envelope. Your mama sent $10 and tell you to help you out, and she sent it to my address instead of yours, and that $10 was exactly what I needed to buy another pack of diapers at that time."
Yeah.
And to think of that, God had to put that in her heart days before I ever knew I was even going to be out of diapers. God was already working a plan. And so I had to accept the help. And so God was already working on providing the help I needed. I just had to be willing to accept the help.
Right. Well, man, that's like, thinking about some of these churches around here. And there's probably plenty of churches where our listeners are as well. Probably depends on what part of the country you're in or what country you're in even. But a lot of churches will, in our part of the world, Brother Chad, will have programs where they have a lot of food boxes and stuff. And I remember growing up, we would get some of those close to our home. And man, what a blessing it was. To me as a kid, I seen the bag of Doritos, whatever. So I was excited about that. But looking back on it now, Dad was disabled, and Mom sometimes she'd have income, sometimes not, raising the kids, getting us to and from school, and we really learned how to grow potatoes, which I haven't forgotten to do today. Still haven't forgotten. I may by tomorrow, but I may wish I'd forgot about.
Just wait till you're 42.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of churches and stuff, man, they'll get protests to do some stuff in, and if they don't give it away, it'll go bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's no harm, or it shouldn't be any shame really to even going and getting produce and from some of those churches and some of those kind of canned goods and stuff. And
here in our local area, we have the food pantry.
Right.
What's called the food pantry. We have there's churches that give away clothes.
Right.
There's churches that give away furniture.
Right.
There's a church in our local area that every year when it comes time for kids to start back to school, they do a backpack school supply giveaway where they fix a hot meal, and they have clothes and stuff there that they can pick through if there's anything in their sizes. They'll have shoes. They have a backpack full of school supplies fixed up based on the age of the kids, like if they're in high school, middle school, whatever. And they'll give them that. They'll give them a sanitary bag or whatever you'd want to call it, hygiene bag, where they'll have like wipes in it, toothbrushes, Kleenexes, things, awesome. Hand sanitizers in. Usually they'll have gospel singing there during that, and they'll have a lot of times they'll have like stuffed animals and stuff. They'll give them too. You know,
that's awesome,
and it's such a blessing to the community,
right?
And
we usually to the church,
and to the church. It's a blessing to that church to be able to give,
right?
And so a lot of times we go over and we'll help out in that and stuff. But there's churches that will help out in so many ways if you just let somebody know that you need some help,
right?
And
and if you do that and take advantage of those kind of programs where they had, there are so many other people out there like yourself that need help. And I guess what I'm saying is you won't be alone, by any means, and you won't be made to feel weird or that you're less.
You'd actually be surprised at just how many people out there need help.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree with that.
During the time I was talking about there before, there was a few times there. Maybe I even went to the food pantry, and I felt so ashamed having to do that. But I also, after that, had the opportunity to help out at that food pantry.
Yeah, that's where it's at.
And given to other folks, and man, what a joy that was, because I had been there.
Yeah.
I had been in that situation. And so I thoroughly was able to enjoy handing that box of food to somebody in need.
Absolutely.
And it makes you just feel so blessed.
Absolutely.
To be able to do that. And what a testimony it is of where God's brought you from, really.
Yeah. Well, man, just thinking about that, the example you just gave, I guess in life, sometimes you're on one side of the box and sometimes you're on the other.
Yes, sir.
But really, we all should be willing to be on both sides of the box.
Yeah.
Be on the side of the box that receives and the side of the box that gives.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right, because, and like you said, there's times you'll need to receive.
Yep.
And it's hard.
Yep.
I mean, you'd think of somebody sitting there, trying to give you $200 and you needed $200, you'd be able to be like, "Oh man, thank you." But it's not that easy.
It's not easy.
It's not that easy because in order to accept that, you have to admit that you didn't have it.
Yep.
For whatever reason.
Right.
And for whatever reason, I guess it's pride that's within us.
Yep.
It is difficult to accept that, hey, I wasn't able to do this.
Yep.
And so it's hard.
I'll throw a plug out there too. Maybe not a plug. I don't know what you call it. Maybe a stopper. I don't know what you call it. But for the givers, just something out there for the givers, man. If you know somebody that if you got the money to help, so let's say somebody needed $50, and you gave somebody $50, you had the money to give somebody $50. One of the worst things you can do with your giving dynamic is make somebody feel like they owe you something back.
Yes.
I'm not a fan.
You're exactly right.
I am not a fan of personal loans. If somebody's got a need and I've got the money, then I would rather, I feel better, and the person receiving, and I've been on the other side of this too, you feel better if you just give it no strings. But this ain't a loan. This $50 ain't a loan. I don't want it back with a little extra. Come tax season, this is just a gift.
Yes.
God's blessed me to be able to give, and I'm just giving this to you.
Yeah.
And so, bye.
Yeah, it takes it takes the blessing out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does.
Yeah. So think about that if you're giving somebody not what they can give you back in return, but just giving just to be given.
And not only that, but it may be just a few months down the road that it's you needing $50.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
You know,
The last thing I want is a 40% interest rate on my $50. You know,
it's exactly right. You know, that's exactly right. And
I see where credit cards interest rates might be going to 39.99%. So all you guys out there with credit cards, getting paid off.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Well, Brother Chad, it's been an awesome episode, man.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you coming in today. I don't know if you had to postpone going to Walmart or anything, but I'm glad you did. Thank you for dropping in. And brother, we'll see you next week. And
yes,
between
sir.
now and then, let's just keep making it count and define the dash.
God bless y'all.
See ya.
Well, I'm gonna hold to the hand of God.